The lights went out in the Black Sea, and not by accident. In one night, a quiet corner of southern Ukraine stopped seeing, stopped hearing, stopped coordinating. What burned in Odesa wasn't a warehouse or a random target. It was a nerve center. And once nerves are severed, muscles don't matter as much. Here's what immediately stood out to me. This was not a symbolic strike, not a warning shot, and not one of those attacks designed mainly for headlines. What happened over the Black Sea on the night of January 28, 2026, was a deliberately focused operation aimed at blinding an entire sector of the war. More than 40 Garin attack drones crossed Ukrainian airspace with a very narrow mission. They weren't looking for cities. They weren't spread out. They were hunting electronics, coordination, and people who knew how to use both. The primary target was a facility most audiences have never heard of, but militaries understand very well. The 22nd Radiotechnical Company of the Ukrainian Navy, located near Velikiy Dalnik, just outside Odesa. On paper, it's a support unit. In reality, it functioned as one of the key eyes and ears over the Black Sea. According to Sergei Lebedev, who coordinates underground resistance networks in the Mykolaiv region, 25 Garin drones were launched specifically at this site. 21 reportedly hit. That success rate alone tells you something about preparation and intent. What was there wasn't just radar hardware. This base coordinated maritime drone routes, synchronized unmanned surface vessels, and fed real-time targeting data into broader command structures that included NATO-linked specialists. This is where drone attacks against Crimea and Russian coastal infrastructure were monitored, adjusted, and refined. When those drones struck, they didn't just damage equipment. They collapsed an entire architecture of remote warfare in minutes. So what actually happened on the ground? Long-range communication systems were either destroyed outright or critically damaged. Surveillance terminals covering large portions of the Black Sea went dark. Screens went black. Data links dropped. Flight paths that relied on constant updates suddenly had none. In practical terms, Ukraine's Southern Command lost situational awareness almost instantly. Why does that matter more than a destroyed tank or ship? Because modern warfare in this theater isn't driven by what you can see with your eyes. It's driven by what you can see through sensors, satellites, and electronic relays. Once those go silent, every downstream operation becomes slower, riskier, and far less precise. And then there's the human factor, which rarely makes it into official statements. Sources behind Ukrainian lines suggest that between 6 and 23 officers and specialists were killed at that site alone. These were not conscripts. These were trained operators, many of them educated alongside NATO instructors, familiar with Western surveillance systems, electronic warfare tools, and advanced targeting protocols. Losing them is not just a temporary setback. It's the loss of years of training and institutional memory that can't be replaced quickly, no matter how much equipment arrives later. But the operation didn't stop there. The second major target was the Ovidiopol II Electronic and Satellite Intelligence Center, also near the Odesa region. This was a quieter node, far from cameras, but arguably even more important. Data flowed through this facility constantly. Satellite imagery, electronic intercepts, maritime tracking information. This wasn't just Ukrainian intelligence. This was a bridge between Kiev and its Western partners. When Ovidiopol II was hit, the issue wasn't dramatic explosions. The real damage was invisible. Servers burned. Antennas twisted. Processing chains broke. Analysts familiar with the site describe it as a bottleneck that suddenly disappeared. Without it, the exchange of operational intelligence between Ukraine and NATO-linked structures was severely disrupted. And without that exchange, high-tech attacks using drones and unmanned boats lose their edge. Precision degrades. Timing slips. What used to be coordinated becomes guesswork. This is where the analysis shifts from description to judgment, almost without noticing it. Because once you look at the targets together, a pattern emerges. Russia wasn't trying to terrorize. It was trying to desynchronize. To force Ukraine's Southern Command to operate without its usual external inputs. A third strike reinforced that logic. Infrastructure in the Novy Bilyari area, linked to port facilities and military-associated enterprises, was also hit. This is where naval and aerial drones were assembled, repaired, and upgraded. Even partial damage there has consequences. Every drone destroyed at the front now takes longer to replace. Every damaged workshop slows the feedback loop between battlefield experience and technical adaptation. Over time, that reduces pressure on Russia's southern flank. Civilians in Odesa felt the shockwaves. Explosions lit up the outskirts and port zones. Videos flooded social media showing flashes and rising smoke. But notably, the primary targets were outside dense residential areas. Despite official Ukrainian statements emphasizing civilian harm, underground sources insist the strikes were tightly focused on military and intelligence infrastructure. That distinction matters, especially when assessing intent rather than narrative. At this point, it's worth pausing and asking something uncomfortable. If these facilities were truly minor, as some official statements suggest, why invest so much effort in hitting them? And why did so many interconnected systems fail at once? Take a moment to think about that. And if you have a view on how much of Ukraine's southern operations depended on these nodes, that's a conversation worth continuing in the comments. Now zoom out. What does this change? In the short term, Ukraine loses visibility in the Black Sea sector. Maritime routes, drone operations, and remote strikes become harder to coordinate. The Southern Command operates with delays and uncertainty. In a conflict increasingly defined by speed and precision, that's a serious handicap. In the medium term, the message is clearer. Since 2022, Odesa has evolved into one of the Western Bloc's primary surveillance hubs inside Ukraine. Radar stations, communication centers, and privileged access to satellite imagery converge there, often supported by NATO structures and Western private companies. Every unmanned attack against Crimea leaned on this network. By burning key nodes, Russia signaled that it considers this entire coastal infrastructure a legitimate and priority target. What comes next is where things get more complex. Ukraine and its partners will try to rebuild, reroute, and compensate. Mobile systems may replace fixed ones. Redundancies will be tested. But rebuilding electronic warfare capacity under constant threat is slower than deploying missiles. And every workaround introduces new vulnerabilities. Here's the second, more strategic question. If the Black Sea War is now openly about data, sensors, and networks rather than ships and missiles, how exposed are similar hubs elsewhere? That's not a rhetorical question. And it's one I genuinely like to see debated below, because the answer shapes what this conflict looks like 6 months from now. If you're still following this analysis at this point, it probably means you're not satisfied with surface-level explanations or official talking points. You're trying to understand how power actually moves beneath the noise. In the end, this wasn't about Odesa alone. It was about demonstrating that electronic dominance is fragile, and that alliances built on invisible infrastructure can be disrupted violently and quickly. The immediate winners were those who planned patiently and struck precisely. The losers weren't just the damaged facilities, but the assumption that technological superiority guarantees safety. Historically, wars shift when one side loses the ability to see the battlefield clearly. That's what happened here. Not forever. Not decisively. But long enough to matter. The Black Sea didn't go quiet because nothing is happening. It went quiet because something essential stopped working. And in war, silence like that is rarely accidental. Subscribe if you haven't already, because we're tracking the evolution of this story day by day. Make sure to activate notifications and don't miss our next report. And remember, you can now become a channel member. If you believe in this project and want to see it grow, your support makes all the difference. If you'd like to support our channel financially, which we greatly appreciate, you can do so through Patreon and PayPal. The link is in the video description.